You know what time it is. Money, power, politics. And tonight, I want you to chew on this number. 450. According to new analysis from Moody's, that is how much more money the average American household has spent on gas and energy thanks to the war in Iran. Meanwhile, Wall Street wrapped up an insanely strong month of trading today, with big tech driving stocks to record highs again, and the Nasdaq alone climbing 8% in May. The nightcap is still here. Ron, historically, May is kind of like a mixed month for Wall Street. There's nothing mixed about these numbers. Nope. Investors made out like bandits. Corporate earnings are really strong. What's your take?
Well, look, I mean, and I'll be criticized this for presumably being a perma bear, which I am not. But, I do think we're in the midst of a bubble when it comes to artificial intelligence. But you saw Dell Computers earnings yesterday, which were just absolutely blow off the charts. Strong earnings. The stock was up 32% today. Earlier this week, Micron Technology was up 19%, hit $1 trillion valuation. You just have an all-in bet on technology right now that is just rocketing the stock market. And again, part of it is the fact that profits are growing so quickly for the top 10 companies in the S&P 500. Every day that we've gone up in the last 5 sessions, the overall market has actually gone down. We don't see this too often. It's usually closer to a top than a bottom. And some people are beginning to worry that this is a kind of a blow off to the upside that could lead to some instability down the road.
Here's what's interesting, David. Gas prices have gone down. Oil prices are down nearly 20%. All over this idea, this hope that a peace deal is in the works. Are investors getting ahead of themselves? I mean, it's clear that's what this president wants. Yeah. But there's a deep divide between what he wants and an actual deal. Because back to the point Ron was making in the last segment, when you talk to oil company executives, they're not dancing in the streets.
Yeah, there's no reserves left. So if this doesn't quickly happen, there's going to be shortages and massive price increases. And then this is a staged process. Essentially, one side, the Iranians have to let some tankers leave, and then the U.S. will let some tankers, and cargo ships get back into Iran's ports. But I think it's a broader problem. This is what we were talking about earlier. Average Americans don't feel like this economy works for them. And we were talking during the break, but this is just a Wall Street Journal headline. The record divide between corporate profits and worker pay. And so that workers' share of economic output hit an all-time low, while the profit share, for companies has hit a record high. And there's not a sense that this economy is like helping the middle class and growing out the middle class. It's just more and more wealth at the top.
Precisely. And honestly, when you look at this, all of these stories are tied together. When you look at the K-shaped economy, when you look at 3.8% annualized inflation from the consumer price index, where it was 2.9 when Trump walked into office. When you look at $450 since the war began, people are spending on energy, offsetting the tax refunds. Yeah. And then you see when you look at the stock market, you also look at the around 3,700 trades that Trump took in Q1, where he owns Northrop Grumman. He owns defense contractors while he's waging a war that benefits defense contractors. He owns NVIDIA while he's greenlighting NVIDIA chips to China. And then at the same time, what I think has really been happening with these fake announcements here, the Iran war has been used as a pump and dump scheme, frankly. And I don't know exactly who is benefiting from it, but Reuters analyzed $7 billion of oddly timed trades right before. Every single time, you can count on it like clockwork. About 20 or so minutes before Trump makes these announcements that never come to anything, there are hundreds of millions of dollars in oil futures that flood the market. There are people profiting off this war. The American people see right through it. And I think that if Republicans think that this isn't going to come up in the midterms for them, they have another thing coming.
Okay, with all due respect to Reuters, though, by the way, Stephanie's been talking about this for a lot longer than anybody else.
Of course. I mean, yeah, she's been on top of it.
Thank you. Here's what's interesting, though. You know what?
Yeah. For the first time.
We can go to commercial break. Ron just won this segment. Here's what's interesting, though. We keep saying, the American voter isn't going to stand for this. The economy that the American voter is experiencing is not how the White House frames it. It's certainly not reflected in the stock market. They're not going to stand for it. However, what we've already seen in the primaries, look at Thomas Massie's race, look what John Cornyn just experienced, Bill Cassidy. We are going to see an enormous amount of money flood to these upcoming midterms because the rich have gotten so rich writing massive checks for campaigns and to politicians is easier than ever, right? If you're somebody that owns Dell stock that was up 30% in the last day, you have no problem writing a lawmaker a giant check. So when we look to the midterms, are we going to see sort of this battle between enormous donor dollars, and I haven't even talked about AI companies, donating to campaigns, and the American VC companies and the American voters saying, this country ain't working for me.
Well, I mean, it's important to bring up the AI, CEOs, donors. Sam Altman was once a proponent of universal basic income. Now he's a proponent of universal free AI, basically saying, I will give the people my awesome product in perpetuity rather than healthcare or food.
And if they give me all of their data.
Exactly, yes. And
yeah, but you're also seeing now Microsoft cut back on its AI spend. You saw that Uber went through all of its 2026 budget by April. So, and
didn't even realize they had.
Well, and then there was another company that Axios said they were consulting with where an individual spent $500 million in a month on AI tokens because they put no limits on it.
There's going to be a backlash against the billionaire class, but whether it
trillionaire class,
that's coming soon.
Yes,
it's on paper, but it's definitely coming. But the idea that bread and circuses will be enough to placate people who are clearly suffering or paying more paying more for everything because of a war of choice, it's going to be a pretty tough sell. And there's going to be.
Okay, hold on. While this is happening, according to new filings, President Trump bought between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of stock in the parent company of UFC, while the White House is preparing to host a giant UFC match on the president's birthday. Now, no surprise, a spokesperson for the White House said anything they do, they're only acting in the best interest of the American people, and the president's assets are in a blind trust that's managed by his children. But this has us asking, yet again, which we do almost every night here, is this White House for sale? When stories like this cross, and more are crossing every single day, do you think this is going to have an impact?
This White House is for sale. If the Democrats can win either house, they will have the gavel, and they should investigate, period. They shouldn't be, and I know you're not saying this, but they should not be talking about good government in this campaign. They should not be talking about, culture war issues. That's what the Republicans want, and I'm worried that the Democratic Party isn't going to have a strong enough message as all this ad money comes in. Go ahead.
No.
And it's such a pivotal election because just today, reopening the case in terms of the 1.776, this judge wants to look at this entire enterprise of creating this lawsuit and then turning it into this fund was premised on deception. But it takes a judge or a House of Congress with subpoena power to get at the bottom.
Okay, so when I talk to business leaders, when I talk to investors who are so thrilled with how they're doing, investing-wise, that are so grateful that they have access to this president, or they've realized, hey, you just have to do X or Y and you'll get yourself a deal. Are any of them starting to realize that in 158 days are the midterms? And on day 159, if the Democrats take control, they're going to be investigating potentially anything and everything. Do you think businesses are starting to realize that?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, the fact that this is happening out in the open, so 3,700 trades undertaken by the president, and then the White House claiming that his investments are in a blind trust. If that were true, we wouldn't know that whoever's handling his blind trust has made 3,700 trades. Instead, we're finding out exactly what he's trading in some instances before announcements are made and, timed quite well.
But hold on, I mean, we find out.
Care. You don't know. George H.W. Bush had a blind trust. It was like in T-bills. Same with Bill Clinton and others, right?
I understand.
So you're in safe assets that don't get moved by presidential announcements or even in some instances announcements by the Federal Reserve or any other organ of government, right? So this shouldn't be happening, period. I don't think at the moment business really cares. It doesn't seem like that to me.
It's just so good.
It's convenient right now not to pay attention.
It's just unbelievable.
And I'm not exactly a socialist.
How self-centered and short-sighted are these business leaders to think that this is just going to go on and on and on as if they're not contributing to potential a bubble, as we've talked about. I think with the AI as well, like some people are using CDOs. I'm seeing weird stuff with the
S&Ps.
Oh, yeah, S&Ps. We have Mark, Facebook and Meta.
Not to get in the weeds.
Yeah. We have Meta doing this weird. They're doing this circular lending.
Well, they're also using off-balance sheet financing.
Okay, this is too nerdy. We're all allowed to talk about this during commercial break, and I want to. Last word to you.
I just think we're moving towards oligarchic crony capitalism. This is not free market competition. Right. Consumers aren't being.
And this isn't exactly a socialist critique, right? We would like to see free market capitalism with guardrails.
But this is the exact point. This is the exact point. Those who are saying, I wanted to go Trump because we're pro-business, this is not free markets capitalism. No way, no how.